Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Mondays with Michele video. This week's topic, convicts and prison records. So what I've done here is gone to Ancestry, and instead of doing a record search, I did search and then went to card catalog. And I got this search screen. I typed in prison and press search, and as you can see, there are quite a few different record sources. So the first one I want to talk about is the prison records 1801 to 1914. Now, a few weeks ago, we were talking about quarter session records where all of the different misdeeds of our ancestors would be brought up before the quarterly court when the magistrate came into town. And I have noticed that a number of my Renton ancestors would make appearances in these records. But the challenge often is there's not enough information given to really identify which George Renton was appearing in these records, or was it multiple George Rentons? Because I have the situation, like many of you, where you have many ancestors of the same name in the same town of similar age. So what I loved about this prison record, they were kind enough to summarize all of his offenses. So I can clearly see, if I'd been looking in quarter session records, this gives me a nice summary. So I know it's not 5 different George Rentons that were in and out of the jails. It's one guy. They give me his age, which is nice, and they're summarizing all of his offenses over the years. So he stole hammers, partridge eggs, coats, boots, trousers. I do like this entry. Let me just pull it up. I do like this entry here where he threw the boot at the magistrate. I'm guessing he wasn't too pleased at his conviction that particular time. Then they talk about he stole a spade, willful damage, loitering, and then they added this last line 23 times for begging, drunk, etc. since 1891. So it would be fair to say that this individual has been in and out of the jail cells and would be appearing quite regularly in the quarter session records. And this is the details of his latest offense. It continues on to the next page. It gives the verdict. It tells you which quarter session, and it gives you the sentence, 9 months hard labor. So that's the first set of records I looked at. The next one, and we'll go back to this master list for a minute. I wanted to look at this item at the bottom, UK prison hulk registers and letter books. So those of you who aren't familiar with what prison hulks are, basically the jails were getting fairly full. So what they did, they took derelict ships that could still float. They would moor them in the harbor, and the ships housed the excess prisoners that the prisons couldn't accommodate. So what we're seeing here is I searched on Renton for the prison hulk registers. This is the list of all of the Rentons that were in the prison hulks. And you notice it gives the ship name. So George Renton, who we saw on previous screens, was on the ship the Fortitude. We've got Joshua Renton, who is on the Justitia. Joshua Renton was also on the Ganymede. So if we go into one of these records, so let's look at George Renton on the Fortitude. It's basically listing, I'll just blow it up so you can see. So it gives you the prisoner's name, their age, what the offense was. So that first line, David Stafford, age 19. He was stealing, wearing apparel, when he was convicted, where he was convicted, and how he's disposed of. He's going to be going to New South Wales. So he's being transported. The next set of records I looked at, they have these items called licenses for parolees. And I'll just scroll to the first page of this. So a license for the parolee was basically kind of like their safe passage or get out of jail free card, if you will. So when a prisoner had served a certain amount of their time, and I guess if they had demonstrated good behavior, because the jails were so crowded, the officials might decide to let them out early. And this piece of paper, these documents, were a record of the approval for them to wander freely instead of continuing the rest of their sentence in jail. And the kind of information you get in these documents is quite fantastic. So here we have Mary Dawson. We find her age. We say what her trade was. We find out what her crime was that she was convicted for. We find where that occurred and the dates. So this gives fantastic information for pulling the details of her court case. We find the length of her sentence, 3 years. More importantly, it also gives her family, next of kin, and their address. We find out that she can't read or write, and her religion is Roman Catholic. What I particularly like is the description. So under peculiar marks, they say she has a cut over the left eyebrow. Her face is slightly pockmarked. There is a slight mole on the right cheek and chin, and she lost a tooth in the front upper part of her jaw. So they were getting pretty specific. We have all the details of where she was incarcerated and when she was transferred from one jail to another. And if we take a look at the other documents, this is basically the license itself, the letter that is saying that Mary Dawson has the approval to be at large, is the way they phrase it. The wording is licensed to be at large, provided, and here's all the fine print, provided that she does not reoffend. So if she is picked up for any reason, even if she is found to be not guilty, her freedom will be revoked. And it's clear that these documents were originally aimed at males, because if you look at the conditions on the right-hand side, number 3, everything says he shall not habitually associate with notorious bad characters such as reputed thieves and prostitutes. So they've used this same document both for males and females, but the wording was definitely aimed at males initially. So in her case, she had been incarcerated for a term of 3 years. she has 4 months to go on her sentence. So this license was granted 4 months before her term was up, meaning that she got released 4 months early. And as long as she doesn't reoffend, she can be out with the general population working. So I found those documents were quite interesting. Another set of documents I looked at when I happened to look at school records. What really interested me was there is an entry here for reform school records. And I thought, oh, those are going to be interesting. So I found this was a wonderful discovery because I even get a picture of my reform school ancestor. So here we have John Lum. And the left-hand page gives the details, gives his name, his date of birth, which is fabulous. So he was born May 30th, 1896. It gives his last residence. It says whether he has been charged with a crime before. So you get any history of criminal activity. So my John Lum his offense was stealing 14 cigarettes. It says the court information where he was charged and the date. And it says his sentence. He has been sentenced to be at the reform school till he's 19 years old. And we get the information about his parents. His mother is still alive. His father is deceased. But if we look on this next page, as I said, we get a complete physical description. We get a picture. I also get this lovely little diagram that shows the condition of his teeth. I guess they felt that was really important. And they've also attached a newspaper clipping where the details were reported. So from a genealogy standpoint, again, at the bottom, it lists other relatives. I now know an aunt and uncle and their address. This is all their admission records. If you pull up the reform school discharge records, this right-hand page is for that same John Lum. It is now 1914. This is showing he was discharged because he joined the army. So that was on Ancestry. You can do similar searches on Find My Past. So just like with Ancestry, you can search all record sets and you will get a search screen that looks like this. I typed in the word convict and you can see all of the different records that showed up. So they also have prison ship Hulk registers. There's not a lot. They only have 13,000 images, but they do have some. What we're going to look at today is the City of York calendars of prisoners. So if I take a look at that record, you get a search screen just for that particular record. I type in Renton and I can view the two results, which we have a William Renton. And if we take a look, because I've got all these different images already prepared. So here is William Renton, number 19. And he was charged along with John Thompson for stealing 100 yards of woolen cloth, 1 coat, 1 waistcoat, and 1 pair of trousers. Now, if you recall, there were 2 items listed on that search screen. If we take a look at the second document, which I have ready here, here we see William again, and he's been found guilty of burglary. And if you notice, it gives the sentence. Now, all of these crimes here have been given the same sentence of 10 years. So from what I've seen, any sentence more than 2 years, they shipped them elsewhere. They transported them beyond the seas. And if you look at some of these sentences, so robbery using violence got a sentence of transportation for 20 years. So let's now take a look at what Family Search has to offer. Again, I did search, catalog, came to this screen and typed convict records, England. So you could also try prison. The resource that I'm going to show you today that I found interesting is this one here, Register of Applications for Passages to the Colonies for Convicts Families. So think about it. When these individuals were sentenced to be transported, a lot of them would have families. And this particular film has the applications by those families to be able to also get on the ship and go to Australia or wherever they were being transported so that they would be with the other family member. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Here's an entry for someone from Huddersfield. So we have the person's name who was sentenced. We have Nathan Taylor. He is going to be transported on the ship, the Adelaide. Here is his wife, Bessie, and his 2 children, William and John, from Huddersfield. It gives the ages of the wife and the children. And on the facing page, what it's saying here is that, yes, they all sailed, and it gives a date. So again, these records can really help trace what happened to some of your families if one of the members was perhaps appearing in the quarter sessions regularly. I hope you enjoyed learning more about prison records. Don't forget to download my handout. You'll find the link in the video description at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for watching.